Welcome to the program Spiritism Inspiring Lives. Today we will be reflecting about the theme or will. But be aware that we all have our own individual will, sometimes called willpower, which is the same. Our brief reflections here today are based within the theory of reincarnation, the immortality of the soul, which Spiritism reflects so deeply through the philosophical, through the scientific, and through the moral aspect of conduct, of experiences, beings, and evolution. Surely, as we mentioned, that we start to reflect about the theory of reincarnation, we are referring to that we are immortal beings, beings in evolution. Now, as we are reincarnated, that means that we are in a physical body expressing ourselves temporarily on earth. We are three-dimensional beings, that is, a spirit, the perispirit, which is the spirit's body, and the physical body, through which we express or we move around in terms of conquering new experiences. When we propose the theme here today, our will, it is helping us to understand our will from a transpersonal perspective, from a more holistic or broader understanding. And we start with the Spirit Emmanuel, when he starts to refer with us, we can compare the human mind, which is the living mirror of awakened consciousness, to a large office subdivided into several departments. Now imagine our mind subdividing in different departments, different areas. Let's see which ones he presents to help us to understand, because for us, the physical brain is not the cause of our thinking, the cause of our emotions. The physical brain on the physical body is the way where the spirit, as we are immortal beings, expresses ourselves through. But the cause lies within the perispirit. So let's understand what the Spirit Emmanuel is helping us to broaden our understanding when he says here for us, if in the human mind, we find the department of desire, which is one of them, where purposes and aspirations are stimulating us to work towards our own evolution, towards our own progress, towards our own spiritual growth, towards acquiring new understanding, desire, purpose, and aspirations. Hopefully, the purpose and aspirations to the department of desire, or the area of desire, we as immortal beings who are the authors of our destiny are already stimulating us to work towards our own progress, towards overriding shortcomings that are not suitable anymore for us to be healthier, happier, stronger, psychologically and emotionally, isn't it? And then he carries on saying the department of intelligence, which expands evolutionary and cultural assets. The department of intelligence we carry on developing throughout our different existences. Bear in mind that we have one life and many, many different existences as we evolve even throughout the different planets. So evolution means change. Evolution means adding knowledge. Evolution means learning new things, even in relation to culture. We as spirits, immortal beings, we reincarnate in different countries and different cultures in order to expand the values from the different cultures, the values that correspond to the universal laws. The universal laws, yes? Then is another department of imagination, slowly joining together the richness of ideals and sensitivity. Where are we in our imagination? Surely here is fundamental that we reflect within the different departments that we are in charge of them, and we are the authors in driving them towards developing the values, the aspects of our super consciousness, the higher self. Because having in the imagination department, which is focused through our will on our negativities or intoxicated mentality, that is not suitable for us as beings in evolution who are within the aim, the purpose to heal ourselves, to grow as learners of ourselves as we are. And then also he carries on saying the department of memory, where archives of our experiences are kept. Nothing is lost in our experiences. Even when we do something, when we conquer some elements in our evolution that may not be noted or perceived by other incarnate spirits, as we stimulate our willpower in choosing to do A, B, or C, whatever it is, and yet it corresponds to the natural laws, we are impregnating ourselves with these values, and they are stored, let's put it like that, in our perispirit, where the memory of the continuation of our journey is all there, stored. So even right now, as we are incarnates, we do not remember everything what we conquered already. We have hints of what we learned previously already, but the hints are more or less related to what we came to promote ourselves in this existence. But probably we may have conquered other values that we are adding through the different existences. And once we free ourselves from the physical body, we will have a more clear vision of this department of memory, which is stored in our perispirit when we free ourselves from the physical body. Even not knowing, it is quite stimulating to know that every effort that we place into to override our lower self or lower tendencies or shortcomings based on pride and selfishness, and is stimulating humbleness, is stimulating kindness, is stimulating the responsibility towards our inner selves, understanding that from a transpersonal psychological perspective, responsibility means internal autonomy, discernment to know that the negativity or the inferior thoughts, they do not suit us anymore, and we choose naturally and gradually to change them. And other departments that define the investments of the soul. Surely we have much more resources, areas which we are developing. Our physical brain, as I started to explain, is a physical organ. It's more, and there also are a lot of resources that still are dormant. As more as we develop our spiritual faculties, that will have an ascendance over our physical reality. So it is important always to place time, find the time, put the efforts into that we learn more about ourselves, about the natural laws in the universe, which embraces all the different fields of knowledge on earth that we are learning, so that we can broaden our understanding and develop our soul, a spirit according to the universal laws that more and more we are navigating within them as we develop our own intelligence, intellectual intelligence, emotional intelligence, and also spiritual intelligence. And as Emmanuel carries on saying, however, the most important is the cabinet of will. There was all the cabinets that we saw and reflected briefly on, or the different areas in our human mind. The most important, according to the spiritual educator, is the will. Do we know that we, in any choice, in any initiative that we take, we are actually exercising our will? But the wisdom is to learn to discern what our will is directing us towards. Because our will can be used, exercised through our inner child. Our will can be exercised through our egoistic state of mind. Or our will can be exercised through our higher self, through our essence, through the adult in us, through the rational mind, and not through the irrational mind, because that will bring consequences in our destinies. Consequences is important to understand, not necessarily negative, because we are all learners of ourselves. Therefore, we still have much more to learn than what we learned. And mistakes are part of learning, as long as we are no longer feeling pleasure in stay stationary in the mistakes. So the will, let's go on and reflect a bit more. The will is the enlightened and vigilant manager that supervises all sectors of our mental activities. Can you see now, as we are carrying on in reflecting and developing our understanding, surely in a brief way, brief minutes. But the willpower is fundamental because that involves our emotional intelligence too. Someone may say, well, I don't have the willpower to read, to study more. I don't have the willpower to do good. We all are using the will or willpower in our daily existences. We are required to, through self-knowledge, to analyze ourselves, that in which way are we using it. As mentioned, I repeat again because it's fundamental. When we have consciously or unconsciously very intoxicated negative belief systems, we are using our will. And that is merely showing as beings in evolution, somewhere, somehow we learn that. And now, which is the best phase in our existences, in our journeys, we can choose to, sounds like, to learn to be the observer and the object observed, that we have that kind of inner relationship with ourselves. I'm the observer, and at the same time, I'm the object to be observed by me, in order to analyze in a loving way what suits me and what does not suit me, in order to acquire more maturity, in order to grow psychologically, emotionally, spiritually, in order to conquer more wisdom. So the will is almost like the manager or the supervisor who is analyzing the other departments if that is helping us to promote within the natural laws in the universe. That is important, because we may have values, desires, and belief systems and systems within us that we bring from previous experiences, either from this existence or not. They may work against us. What do I mean against us? They may be promoting disturbances on a mental level, inner conflicts, reinforcing the low self-esteem, reinforcing the insecurity, because our belief systems are based on irrational thoughts, or emotions when they are on the primary level, very still brutal, like when we are dealing with our anger. If that is not administrated adequately and we allow that emotional primitive state take over, we may complicate ourselves temporarily, even getting ill, even getting depressed, sometimes getting frustrated, because all of those elements need to be made conscious by ourselves and also learn to administrate. When we refer or learn self-control, that does not mean self-criticism. It means that we need to learn to be first to know, and then be in control of any law reference and administrate them in different ways, either through our thinking or our feelings. We all can do that, so that we become stronger in our will, in what we choose, how we use that force that we have within, force in a sense of a strength to promote ourselves further from where we are today. And then moving forward, I quote still Emmanuel, who says, as if it were a luminous order, divine providence considered will to reason only after the being have laboriously moved through the dark regions of instant on its multimillennial journey. How is that? All of us, because we have been created by God as intelligent principles, and we have already a long journey, even through different kingdoms, mineral, vegetable, animal. Now we are in the human kingdom as spirits. So we already learned quite a lot, isn't it? We already experienced a lot of experiences, and all of us are growing out of these dark regions of instance. Here we are, at least in the reality of reasoning. Sometimes it's questionable, but at least we're supposed to be invited to learn to think for ourselves. And then to think for ourselves means that I also need to have a reference, things according to what? According to the universal laws. In the universe, we bring them within. And as more as we learn to meditate, learn to analyze ourselves in a loving way, learn to know who we are, observe our dark sides, our shadows, or shortcomings, and freely, lovingly choose to re-educate ourselves, we are already becoming more rational beings. Rational beings does not mean that we don't have emotions. They are only more educated and balanced. And then Emmanuel carries on in his book, Thought and Life. In order to consider the importance of will, it is enough to remember that it is the will of all kinds of driving forces incorporated in our knowledge. That is very profound, isn't it? In order to consider the importance of will, the willpower, it is enough to remember that it is the will, the driving force of all our achievements, of all our learnings. Surely, if it's weak, if mind will is weak, it has been less exercised, needs more my attention, my time, my dedication, so that I can. It's also like when you train in the gym. You start bit by bit, and then you are becoming more professional because you're training our minds. When we talk about our will, that is also be trained, exercised, having time to look within, having time to listen to ourselves, having time to study so that I can increase my discernment, having time to study so that I can increase my self-knowledge, having time to study about the universal laws so that I can observe if my inner world is already moving according or not, and if not, that I freely choose to restructure myself, because this is the fundamental aim to be on earth, to grow, to heal, to mature. And we all have the same reference when we can refer to. Surely we are all evolved in different levels, especially morally, because knowledge sometimes we have a lot, but when we refer emotionally, means that on the emotional intelligence, we are less evolved, and that is the problem. Well, is a problem. We understand that all the problems have solutions. So we will be focusing more on that and helping us also to use our willpower to re-educate ourselves. We can change our emotions. We can give different directions if we activate, stimulate, and train our inner willpower. And then Emmanuel carries on saying, the brain is the dynamo that produces mental energy according to its own capacity for reflection. However, in the will, we have the control that directs it in one way or another, establishing causes that command the problems of destiny. And do we think that we have problems? You know, when we analyze ourselves as learners of ourselves within a long journey of evolution, we will change our terminology, how we refer to our experiences. For example, problems are nothing more than experiences that perhaps are challenging, either because we are redoing lessons or because we are facing new lessons in learning. And both experiences are positive. It's very important to observe our negativity and override our memories, freely choosing, believing in ourselves, is stimulating the willpower to nourish ourselves with positive, constructive belief systems. I can change myself. I choose to restructure myself. I choose to train, exercise my thoughts, my mind in a constructive way. So, problems are experiences. As learners, we attract them. And I repeat, either to redo the lessons that we did in a wrong way, in an inadequate way in the past, in this existence or in others, or we are facing lessons, experiences to learn new lessons, new knowledge, new wisdom. Always bear in mind, our human mind refers to our immortality, is spirits as we are. And we are here to expand ourselves towards reality, according to the universal code of values. And then if you carry on still with Emmanuel, he says, without the will, desire may do wrong and go astray, incurring depths requiring centuries of suffering and restitution. Intelligence may be couched in the vices of criminality. Imagination may create dangerous monsters of darkness. And memory, although faithful to its function of registering what it receives in conformity with the destination given to it by nature, may fall into deplorable neglect and inefficiency. Here we learn that is the need that we all have as beings who are growing, who are learning, who are expanding our consciousness. When he starts to say, without the will, in the previous slide we saw, the will is the inner power that directs in one way or another our initiatives. Which initiatives are you talking about? Or thoughts, or belief systems, or emotions that may emerge in our daily experiences, or actions. So without the will, the desire, which is the conditioned already in our unconscious memory, the perispirit, we may fall back and identify ourselves with the wrongs that we did already. And of course, we increase our inner illnesses, our inner conflicts, our inner discomfort, and incurring in depths, because we are all beings in evolution within the natural law of life, also the law of cause and effect. Whatever we think, whatever we say, whatever we feel, whatever we do, whatever are our tendencies, they bring consequences. As learners, bear in mind, as learners, if they are good, if they are helping us to override our old ways of thinking, or ill-minded way of thinking, or ill-minded of feeling, we are making efforts to, it's almost like learning to educate our own inner child. And we have the resources within, for instance, a Spiritism, which is a science, philosophy, and helps us to understand the new code of life, which we as immortal beings are learning, interacting, and making our own choices, exercising our own will. We will be more clever. We become more intelligent, spiritually speaking, because we are developing our own spiritual intelligence. So although I have the intellectual intelligence and emotional intelligence, I will not be enslaved by them. I have the bigger manager who will be guiding the two of them. Is that suitable to me, what I'm thinking? Is that helping me to be wiser? Is that helping me to be lighter? Is that helping me to be more friendly? Is that helping me to cooperate more with everyone, wherever I am, towards goodness? Is that helping me the way that I'm thinking to forgive more? Is that becoming easier? Or I feel that I'm really putting pressure on myself and full of anguish, full of anxiety, full of hatred. That is the evidence that I'm quite often identified with my old self. Old self meaning my old tendencies, and we can change that as long as we choose to. So it's not all the desires will come up in our conscious minds that we go blindly and feed them, nourish them, and follow what they want. We need to almost like be the observer of ourselves. As I mentioned previously, learn to be the observer and the object observed in the same time. We all will learn that. And then Emmanuel carries on by saying, only the will is sufficiently strong to sustain the harmony of the spirit. Of course, we have different departments, remember, but there is the need to train the willpower, or internal willpower, not other people's, ours. When he says only the will is sufficiently strong to sustain the harmony of the spirit, because what I think, what I feel, that is part of who I am. And if I train now my inner willpower to select what is good, what is not, according to the code of universal love, of universal goodness. So when my shortcomings may come up from my unconscious mind, either on the mental or emotional level, I will choose to stop and give a different direction, understanding that I have an option that I can choose to think in a different way. If I keep on thinking the same way, I keep on intoxicating myself. There is no one to be blamed, neither myself, but I'm just reinforcing my illnesses We are all brought up to be happier, to be in harmony with ourselves. But that only happens when we choose to let go our egoistic state of mind and all the old tendency based on it. When we choose now to give in, as our inner wisdom develops as a free choice, and we choose the pathway of humbleness and goodness wherever we are, including forgiveness, self-forgiveness, and also forgiveness of others, because we still all need to be forgiven, for sure. And moving on here, we learned still, in reality, it cannot stop mental reflections whenever these are produced by contacts with others. We are social beings by nature. Because attunement is an unbreakable law. We tune in according to the echoes in our tendencies. But it can impose disciplinary control over the elements it governs, so as to maintain them cohesive in the service of goodness. The question would be here, do I know with what I'm attuned to? Do I know with whom I'm attuned on a constant basis? And it's not only in relation to different people. As I mentioned, we are all social beings by nature. But within Spiritism, we also learn that no one dies. We all go through the natural death of the biological ending of a circle of life on the physical level. But as spirits, we carry on alive and we carry on communicating with each other. How can that be? You know, there is a cosmic fluid in the universe. So whatever we think, conscious or not, whatever we feel, we are communicating. And all those who are tuned into our same tendencies, they are listening, they are hearing what we are communicating. Very important. Self-knowledge. Develop self-control. Develop meditation, reflection, for us to get to know who we are. So that we, once we perceive our own negativity, our own toxicity, our own shortcomings, our own shadows, we don't criticize ourselves, but we choose to learn to love ourselves a bit more. We choose to respect ourselves, and self-respect is no longer carry on hating us, is no longer carry on hating others. Self-respect is the training which leads us to the practice of self-love. Self-forgiveness also is important, that as learners as we are, we will do mistakes, but we are not failures, we are not mistakes. We are just, as learners, need to look at the mistakes, take the autonomy, which is the responsibility, learn from it, so the next time that the universe presents us the same lessons, that we can engage with more wisdom, that we move on, that we heal ourselves. So it's important that we think about our will, or willpower, to develop it in terms of expanding goodness within. Do we all know that we essentially are good beings, as souls in evolution, as spirits who are growing in wisdom and love? So, if the spiritual growth happens through expanding, renewing my thoughts and my emotions, it is fundamental on daily basis. And I can assure you, all of us have plenty of opportunities once we are conscious. If we are unconscious, we cannot see it. We have plenty of opportunities that the universe is inviting us to change thoughts, to change belief systems, to re-educate our feelings, to learn to be in control of what we feel and not controlled by what we feel, to let go, to live, sometimes forgive others, even if we are not wrong. Remember, the real love, the unconditional love in the universe, is teaching us that the real love, the mature love, is not conditioned to anything, to anyone. So let's revise our inner structures. Quite often, through our immaturity, it is completely or quite highly conditioned to other people, to situations outside us. We bring the seed of real love within us, within our uniqueness. And we also bring innate the ability to actualize ourselves. Let's train, let's exercise more our inner willpower towards goodness. Essentially, we are beings of goodness. Essentially, we are beings of love. There is the need to address our inner relationship in a loving way and use the will to fortify us, to override our old tendencies in creating the new ones. Being a student within the universal laws helps us immensely. We cannot learn everything in the same time. We need to go back again and carry on learning. That is the purpose. So let's stimulate ourselves. Let's also train our will, internal will, in order to study more and go back as many times as we need to the same lesson, so that we really impregnate ourselves, that it empowers us to extend it through our actions. As we come to the end of our reflections today, in these brief moments, I would like to say that we all can promote our inner will towards goodness, as long as we may choose to. If we cannot do that alone, let's join a group, with different people, but with the same aim of getting to know each other, getting to study together, so that we can see that it's not only us who have questions, doubts, and challenges, but everyone is learning. Trust ourselves in the learning process. Trust in ourselves that we can change, yes. Despite of everything that we may have learned in an incorrect way, we bring the power, the willpower within to change everything that is needed in order to promote us further in enlighten our minds and hearts and promote real happiness while we are learning constantly throughout our different existences, as brothers and sisters in humanity as we all are. And in that way, I do wish you much peace to all, and I hope to see you soon in the next reflections. Take care. Bye-bye.